something when I am one person in disbelief that in 2016 these are not options even though our president is mixed. I think, why ask me how I identify if you're just going to tell me what my race is anyway? I tell him I am black. My words sound like a lie, feeling as though I'm betraying a part of myself, but today I am black for my country's convenience, even though black and brown and yellow have never been convenient. I take note of the irony, realizing that no matter what I write, they will just use it against me. I find myself resenting my country that doesn't even recognize my race, a country that can only identify me as 48% of what they see, a country that is so diverse. Its first language is American English, its second is racism, and the third is Spanish. Sometimes Spanish-speaking Americans are actually treated like U.S. citizens, and sometimes speaking Spanish is okay if your complexion is gringo enough to pass as bilingualism. Mostly, my race usually does the talking for me, and mostly, I'm just a young female minority that should calm down and know her place before authority, and mostly, my mouth is just an inconvenience that God put on my face by accident, kind of how slavery was accidental. College student says to me, black people could have been the ones who owned white people, you know? I think, no, I don't know that, because that is a world I have never lived in. White male college student clarifies that everyone originally is from Africa, so aren't we all black? So couldn't he call himself black? He asked me why it matters I have to put black on my ID card. The words passing his privileged lips. I clear my voice. I attempt to speak louder than my skin, loud enough to resonate through his ears that have chosen ignorance instead of enlightenment. I explain to him that I am black and white, from my Irish and Sicilian immigrant blood to my Jamaican sugarcane slave blood. I tell him that my outside layer of dead skin is a testimony from my ancestors worn by my people in remembrance. How the existence of my skin is the closest thing they will receive to a reparation. I tell him about apartheid South Africa, how it was the law to have your ID cards on you at all times because privilege is broken down by how close of a shade you were to white. I tell him of people in the Philippines that spend millions to bleach their skin so they look better. I explain how mothers in India tell their children to carry umbrellas on sunny days so their skin stays light because the darker your skin is, the less desirable you are. How some people are so colorblind they don't even see racism, that his white skin shields him from more than just the sun. I explain because my skin has always needed an explanation. How under my layers of skin I find oppression. Maybe that's why black people get ashy all the time. Maybe you're constantly trying to shut off our layers of oppression. Maybe we use lotion in attempts to heal our skin in order to resurrect our dead ancestors. So, to answer your question, yes, my race matters. The questions he should have asked are, what's the point of me having a driver's license if I won't live long enough to pull it out? Why does my ID need to be bilingual if my skin is the only language the officer speaks? Does it matter what I put on my ID card? If the officer's just going to use their eyes as ears anyway, if my skin screams guilty before I can say that I am not, does my ID matter? Can you even hear what I am saying right now? Or am I speaking a different language?
To deal with some of the questions then. Jose.
First of all, let me start by thanking Region President Milner and Region Vice President Bailey for really encouraging, facilitating, and really allowing this panel presentation and the luncheon to happen. I think it takes a tremendous courage to do this, and I want to thank you. I think it is very noble of you to do this. I have a rhetorical question as I was developing, as I was listening here, and so there is a question, but the question is really directed more towards all of us that are listening and not as much to the panelists. And it's two questions. One is, what did we really hear? And the second one is, what did we see here? And since I asked the question as a rhetorical to you, I think I have the right and the privilege to answer my own question. And what I heard, and I think all of us, we heard and we saw based on our own personal life experiences that we bring here today. What I heard was this: it's not about me, it's not about what I want on a personal, selfish basis. It's about we need to receive a quality education. And it is about, we need to see more students of color, more students graduate. And it's not about us, but it's about the state of Wisconsin, and it's about our communities. As we receive the quality education and as we graduate in greater numbers, our state and our communities will be strengthened and will grow. That's what I heard. What I also saw here is this. I did not see individuals that are weak, that are vulnerable. What I saw here was strength, creativity, innovativeness. And why am I saying that? Can you imagine waking up every single day and having to face what they face? Think about the strength that it takes to get up in the morning and say, is this going to be another day like yesterday? And for them to go through it every single day. So I want to thank you for being here, because you are showing us strength. You are showing us how creative you are to get up every single day and keep coming back. Muchísimas gracias. Es lo único que puedo decir. Thank you.
Are there other questions from other regents? Yes.
I have a comment. And this really follows up on what Regent Vasquez says. And I'm going to actually respond to the what did I hear, what did I see. So in addition to what he said, what I also heard is we need some support. We need some additional support, some additional protection, some additional perspectives to understand what we're facing, so that in fact we can be successful in our academic endeavors. What I saw was courage, because for you to come before the board, your other colleagues and chancellors, you go back to your campuses now on your own, and we're not all there. And that takes courage, because you never know what may happen as a result of comments that you make. So that's huge. But know that this is a group of individuals who do respect who you are as students in this system. The Board of Regents respects you, all of the chancellors, and those in attendance. So just thank you for your commitment to education, and thank you for commitment to just standing up for what you believe, not only for yourselves, but on behalf of the individuals that you're representing.
Yes, thank you, Ed. I was hoping you would make a comment.
First of all, thank you for coming, and let me just say this, that I do admire your strength and courage in speaking to this group. These things have been going on for a long time, but you can make it. And you can see in Jose and Eve, who have gone through some of the things that you've gone through, experienced some of the things you've experienced, that if you continue to persevere and ask for help, people will help you. And you'll get through it, and you'll make it, and you'll be there as an example for the next group. Because unfortunately, we can't change this instantaneously, as you know. But we can keep working at it, and I'll promise you that as long as I'm here, we'll keep trying to work to make it better. And I thank you once again for coming.
And we thank you. We want to thank you all for joining us. My colleagues on the board have thanked you as well. Oh, we have one. I'm sorry. I apologize. Regent Higgins.
Thank you, Regent President Miller, and thanks to our panel members for being here. Obviously, it takes guts to be sitting in front of a bunch of us to do this. But being an old guy, I started my college experience in 1968, and just to give you an example of what that means, I'm from Appleton. I have a good friend now who is sick, and he tells a story about how he got to Appleton in 1968, the only guy in the county who wore a turban, and how literally cars would stop on College Avenue and point him out. So that's the background. You know, I came from Appleton to go to the UW at Madison. And of course, I was one of those guys who you know, managed to stick my foot in it right away by asking. There were 4 or 5 African American young men in my dormitory, and I said to Walter, "Oh, are you here on a track scholarship?" And of course, Walter took off. Okay, this got around obviously to the black people in my dorm. And there was one guy who was on my floor. Now you gotta understand, this is one of those dorms where it's 3 floors for 1 floor, so we're only talking about, you know, 40 or 50 people. And his name was John. And John was one of these ebullient, outgoing individuals, black guy from Milwaukee. And John managed to take it on himself for the next 2 years we were there to help enlighten me. And I want you to know, he had the pin going, but he had it in the nicest possible way. I learned a whole lot about dealing with people who were not my race, because John kept going, "Yeah, Higgins, are you on the track team?" You know, he just kept bringing it up. And he made it front and center for me. And I believe that was a big help to me. And so when I hear statements like, you know, it's not our job to educate the white people, I don't understand that, because, you know, I do think it's your job. Just like, you know, I'm Catholic, and I often have to explain where I stand to people who are not. It's part of who I am, and for those who are kind enough not to just admit it, but to ask, I want to do my best. So let's hear what you have to say, because that's one of those things that baffles me.
So I guess let me clarify my statement. So let's take this into perspective, right? So there's about 45,000 people who go to UW, right? And 2.3% of them are black. Less than 1% are Native American. Maybe about 5% are Hispanic, and maybe 10% are Asian American, with more than half of them being international students. So it's my job to get an education. It's my job to learn. It is my job to. It's my job to be here and to be a student, and it should not be an extra priority for me to teach people who are more curious about me and like ask things like, "Oh, why do you have that thing on your head?" Or ask me things like, "Oh, why did you decide to come to UW-Madison?" Or like asking things out of curiosity rather than respect. It's not my job to do that. It is people who get paid to do that. It is not a person that pays to go to the university to do that. So, like, not saying that I won't answer questions, not saying that I don't have white friends who ask me questions like that, and not saying that I don't answer those questions, it's just saying that if a person calls me, says, "Ayo, ISIS," at me, I'm not really interested to have a conversation with them. I'm not really interested to educate them and to prove my humanity to them, because by them saying that to me, they automatically don't see it, and it should not be a burden on students of color to do that, because it is already a burden to be on this campus, on these campuses, and then it's just an extra burden to have to explain yourself, to have to explain your culture and to justify it. So it's not our job.
And it looks as if we're going to have an interesting luncheon discussion, because all of this is going to be that kind of good discussion that Amber, you talked about, and it's a learning for all of us. I want to thank you for joining us today. I also want to thank my fellow regents, our chancellors, and other on the campus who have made time and space necessary to host the conversations around this topic. These are conversations about diversity and inclusiveness. There is a lot being done system-wide, and there will be a lot done to effectively understand the challenges and obstacles our students face, and to make the challenges and the progress necessary. While there's been a lot while a lot has been done, I am pleased to share another step. I've talked last month and I talked this month about the steps that have been taken, progressive steps that we've taken along the way that we will continue to take. Today is another step that I'd like to share with you on an action about this important issue. Today I'm announcing the creation of a task force to examine underrepresented minority students' experiences that will be comprised of several regents, chancellors, student affairs professionals, and of course, students. The goal is not only to collect and examine perspectives and real-life experiences, but also to examine and, where necessary, recommend areas where our actions are to improve the experiences of all our students. I will share more information with you as we progress in the near future and obviously keep the board up to date on the activities and the progress. I want to again thank you for joining us here today, and we're going to move in across the way to a lunch that we have prepared where we'll have a time to talk to more of your students from all over the system. We have representatives coming from all over the system, and we're looking forward to that. And President Cross, do you have anything to add before I ask if there are any communications, petitions, or memorials? President Cross?
I would just like to pick up for a moment on, and if you'll pardon me, I will speak philosophically for a moment. One of the things that we in academics often do is we believe that any academic course will solve any problem. And it's far more important that we look at this issue from a human perspective, not just how we change the minds, but how we change the hearts of people with whom we live and work. I too add my congratulations to you for doing this. And like others, I think we all ponder these things and wonder, what must I do differently? How must I behave differently? And that's a question of the heart. And I don't think anybody here would ever want you to be, in any way, feel that our campuses are not a welcoming and a warm place for you to be. At the same time, as an academic, I know that part of the pursuit of truth requires that how I think and how I handle things are challenged. So in an atmosphere where free speech is preeminent, it's hard for us to look at ways, how do we control these behaviors and actions that are inappropriate? And yet free. I, as a former veteran, fought for people to have the right to do that, even though I find it repulsive in many cases. So in chances like that, how do you change the heart of people to understand what's appropriate and to behave in a civil way? Forcing someone often only suppresses it. How do we change people? Education changes people, but it also is important we understand we too have to change. So thank you for reminding us of that today. I look forward to working with you.
Thank you, President Cross.